Welcome back to Ronin Recap. Now on to the next chapter.
76 The Happy Professor Zhang. Aren't you guys going to persuade him? Even though the Song family was a powerful family in Jiangbei, and they were ranked at the top even in the Jiang province. However, even for the Song family, it would be difficult to buy the entire Coiling Dragon Villa complex. After all, this involved 1 to 2 billion yuan. This is what you meant by a little tight on funds? Song Jiasen asked curiously. Who would spend 1 or 2 billion to buy houses? Lin Fan could only laugh it off. What could he say? Could he possibly tell her that he got the houses from a silver packet? She would not believe it even if he said it. After Lin Fan asked the furniture company to place the sofas and beds in the villa, he did not move in immediately. It was too empty and lonely for a person to live in such a villa alone. After Lin Fan and Song Jiasen parted ways, he went to Ika City. Huang Ling had flown to another city and would only be back the day after tomorrow. Only Lin Fan and Xiao Ziqian were in the entire house, so they were even more unscrupulous. One had to admit that Lin Fan was very capable. Even though he had done it for 2 nights straight, he was still full of energy. That night, the big bed was like a music box that sang the whole night. The next day. Jiangbei University. The counselor, Sun Yaodong, was humming a tune in the corridor, swaying as he walked. He was obviously in a good mood. When Sun Yaodong met a middle-aged professor, he said proudly, "Old Feng, what did I say? Didn't my students get a few provincial awards? One even got the national award. In 2 days, Lin Fan will go to Jingbei for his dissertation. He might even be able to win the higher education cup." Since yesterday, Sun Yaodong had been saying similar things. The middle-aged professor had no way of refuting that. It was because a student really did win the national award. At that moment, Lin Fan walked over. Sun Yaodong's eyes lit up. No matter how he looked at Lin Fan, he found him pleasing to the eye. "Lin Fan, are you going to the mathematics department's office?" Sun Yaodong asked. "Yes, Professor Zhang asked me to go over," Lin Fan said. Sun Yaodong nodded and said, "He'll probably discuss the Jingbei oral defense with you. Your ability is outstanding, so make good use of this opportunity. Our class honor depends on you." Lin Fan's lips twitched when he heard this. He clearly remembered that Counselor Sun had said almost the same thing to him the last time. Then, he convinced him to sign up for the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. He was saying such things again? Unfortunately, he was going to be disappointed this time. Lin Fan laughed non-committally. Then, he walked to the mathematics department's office. At this time, Zhang Yang was sitting in his office, drinking tea and reading newspapers. The moment he caught sight of Lin Fan, his murky eyes lit up with a bright light. "Lin Fan, come and sit down. Have some tea first." Even though Zhang Yang had not given Lin Fan any training, no matter what, Lin Fan won the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. This was also beneficial to him. "Thank you, Professor Zhang," Lin Fan said. After drinking a mouthful of tea, there was a hint of sweetness in the bitterness, just like the taste of life. Zhang Yang said, "Generally speaking, the list of winners for the national award and even the higher education cup has already been announced. They chose the model and thesis you submitted. The reason why I'm letting you guys go to Jingbei to defend your dissertation is to check if you guys completed it on your own. So, when you go to Jingbei tomorrow, don't be nervous. Just answer according to the model." "Professor Zhang, I'm not planning to go to Jingbei," Lin Fan said. "Oh." Zhang Yang nodded with a smile, but the next moment, his whole body froze. "You? What did you just say? You're not going to the capital?" Zhang Yang's eyes widened. "Yes, I'm not," Lin Fan said. "Why? You're very talented. If you win the first prize in the country or even the higher education cup, the school will give you a large scholarship. Also, this will be very beneficial for your research and even your work in the future. Zhang Yong said. High scholarship? Was it even 1 million? Even with a 1 million yuan scholarship, it was only Lin Fan's income for a day's sleep. Postgraduate recommendation? He had come to Jiangbei University to experience college life. As for work? Lin Fan did not care about that at all. Those are useless to me. I still don't want to go to Jingbei, Lin Fan said. What? Zhang Yang was a little anxious and paced back and forth in the office. Lin Fan, this is a really good opportunity. The school will pay for all your travel expenses. Just treat it as a 2-day trip to Jingbei. Isn't that great? If you don't go now, you'll definitely regret it in the future. However, no matter what, Lin Fan remained unmoved. At this moment, Zhang Yang suddenly thought of the first time they met. It was the scene of Lin Fan hugging Xia Bing and Xia Shui. He continued, the National Mathematical Modeling Competition is a team competition. Even if you don't want to go to Jingbei and even if you don't care about the honor and trophies, you have to consider your teammates, Xia Bing and Xia Shui. They really need these. The moment he said that, Lin Fan could not help but hesitate. Xia Bing and Xia Shui were only ordinary students, but their computer skills were outstanding. Moreover, they even signed up for the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Perhaps, they really needed the certificate and trophy? Zhang Yong was delighted to see that his words seemed to have worked. He was prepared to be a little more ruthless with his methods. Thus, he picked up his phone and dialed the phone number of a lecturer from the School of Computer Science. After a while, Xia Bing and Xia Shui slowly walked in. When they saw Lin Fan, their pretty faces immediately revealed sweet smiles. Zhang Yong cleared his throat and said, Lin Fan just said that he doesn't want to go to Jingbei to participate in the oral defense. Xia Bing, Xia Shui, you guys should quickly persuade him. After he finished speaking, his face was like Xia Bing and Xia Shui's, revealing a smile. Then we won't go either, Xia Bing and Xia Shui said in unison. Their answers were so decisive without the slightest hesitation. Ha! Zhang Yang was stunned again. What was going on? This situation was completely different from what he had imagined. You guys won't go? Aren't you going to persuade him? Zhang Yang hurriedly said, Xia Bing, Xia Shui, you might not know this yet. If you go to Jingbei to do your oral defense, you might win the second or first prize of the country or even the higher education cup. But if you don't go, you can only win the third prize. Xia Bing and Xia Shui said, okay. We won't go. Okay? They would not go? Was this reasonable? Zhang Yang was speechless. He did not know how important Lin Fan was to Xia Bing and Xia Shui. There was no need to talk about the national second prize and first prize or even the higher education cup. Even the entire world could not compare to Lin Fan. 77 If he doesn't want to go, then forget it. Zhang Yang tried to persuade them for a while, but it was useless. In the end, he had no choice but to give up. He also told Lin Fan, Xia Bing, and Xia Shui to go back and think about it. Zhang Yang thought for a while and walked toward the counselor's office. He wanted Sun Yaodong to help persuade them. It was not easy for someone from Jiangbei University to win a national award in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Zhang Yong did not want to give up the opportunity to go further. Sun Yaodong, who was drinking tea, stood up when he saw Zhang Yong. Professor Zhang, you're here because Lin Fan will be going to Jingbei, right? I'll definitely approve his leave. Now, as long as Sun Yaodong mentioned Lin Fan, his face would be filled with smiles. He had really made a name for himself. A national award. That was the only national award of Jiangbei University. Lin Fan doesn't want to go to Jingbei, Zhang Yang said. Ha! As if a fishbone was stuck in Sun Yaodong's throat, his voice suddenly stopped. At this time, Zheng Jinbao was blocked by two people outside the corridor. Zheng Jinbao, didn't you say that designing a drainage system is the simplest? What's going on now? We didn't even get the provincial third prize. I've asked a lot of people, and as long as they chose the drainage system, none of them won the award. A man of medium build complained. My goal this year was to be second in the province. The short man said. The two of them were considered top students. They placed great importance on this national mathematical modeling competition. However, the result was not what they had expected. Zhang Jinbao could not help but feel a little guilty when he was interrogated by them. He looked around and saw Lin Fan, who had just returned from Zhang Yong's place. His squinted eyes immediately widened as he said, "That's because those who chose the drainage system aren't good enough." Then, he walked in front of Lin Fan and said, "This is my roommate, Lin Fan. He won the National Mathematical Modeling Award. He'll be going to Jingbei for an oral defense soon, and he might even come back with a higher education cup. Do you know which question brother Lin Fan chose? The drainage system." Zhang Jinbao answered his own question. Of course, the medium-build and short man knew that Lin Fan had won a national award. This matter had long been spread. However, they had no idea which question Lin Fan had chosen. Zhang Jinbao said in the tone of an elder, "Don't look for the reason in others whenever there's a problem. You should reflect more on yourselves." The two of them could not help but lower their heads and walk away. Zhang Jinbao placed his hand on Lin Fan's shoulder and smiled. "Brother Lin Fan, thank you for your help." "Oh right, brother Lin Fan, when are you going to the capital?" "I'm not going," Lin Fan said. "Ha?" Zhang Jinbao squinted his eyes and blinked twice. He was a little stunned. At this time, Sun Yaodong ran over in a hurry. "Lin Fan, how can you not go to Jingbei to defend your dissertation? This is a very good opportunity. Your ability is outstanding. The honor of our class depends on you," Sun Yaodong said. These words again? This time around, Lin Fan was not the only one who was speechless. Zhang Jinbao was also speechless. Sun Yaodong only knew how to spout such things to deceive people? Sun Yaodong did not realize this and was about to say something. At this moment, the bell rang in the school. "Class is starting," Lin Fan said. "Counselor Sun, I'll go in first." "Hey, you. You should think about it again," Sun Yaodong said. In the back row. "Brother Lin Fan, are you really not going to the capital to defend your dissertation?" Zhang Jinbao could not help but ask. "You're not going to Jingbei for your oral defense?" Ma Zhong was surprised. Why? Obviously, he knew the rules of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Lin Fan yawned and said, "Do you guys have to be so excited? Why do I have to go to Jingbei? Instead of going so far to answer some questions, why don't I just sleep?" What? That was the selection for a national award. Countless people dreamed of going there. Lin Fan. He actually said that it was better to sleep? Ma Zhong opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but the old professor had already walked in with a textbook. Lin Fan listened to the old professor's lullaby-like lecture and quickly fell asleep. When Lin Fan woke up, it was mealtime. After having a leisurely lunch, he returned to the dormitory and prepared to sleep again. At this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrated. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 10 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 300 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Lin Fan received a total of 40,500 yuan from the red packets today. He glanced at the red packets that he had received after spending 3 million yuan on the furniture yesterday. He muttered in his heart, 300 red packets? I'll wait a little longer. I'll gather 1,000 of them and open them together. Then, he put his phone aside and fell asleep again. At the same time, in the big conference room of Jiangbei University, the professors and deans of the mathematics department were all gathered together. They discussed in low voices. They were all puzzled as to why they were suddenly informed of a meeting. As time went by, it was not only the members of the mathematics department who came but the members of other departments too. Even the school leaders had arrived. This made everyone even more confused. It was rare for Jiangbei University to hold such a large-scale meeting, especially since the meeting was hosted by the mathematics department. The dean of the School of Mathematics, Hu Chuan, was sitting at the head of the table. He took a sip of tea leisurely and looked at Zhang Yong, who was sitting not far away. He seemed to be a little worried and smiled. "Professor Zhang, why do you look like you have something on your mind?" "Dean Hu." Zhang Yong sighed. "You should know that the students from Jiangbei University won a national award in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition this year." Hu Chuan nodded and said, "I know about that. It's Lin Fan's team, right? That's a good thing. Why do you look so unhappy?" "Lin Fan doesn't want to go to Jingbei to take part in the oral defense for the national award." "Huh? Why not? What a great opportunity this is. Does that child not know what an oral defense means? I have to persuade him." "Does he have any difficulties?" The surrounding professors and leaders were all surprised and asked one after another. Zhang Yang said, "I've said everything I needed to say, but Lin Fan doesn't seem to be interested at all." Hu Chuan, who was sitting at the head, thought for a while and said, "Since he doesn't want to go, then let's forget it." "Huh?" Zhang Yang's mouth was half open, and his face was full of confusion. Hu Chuan continued, "I was already very surprised that Lin Fan participated in the mathematical modeling competition. At that time, I thought that he was probably just playing around. If we let Lin Fan do the oral defense, it would be the same as letting him bully others. It's normal for Lin Fan to choose not to go." "Huh?" Zhang Yong's mouth was wide open, and he was even more confused. Lin Fan's participation in the mathematical modeling competition was a surprise? He did it just for fun? Lin Fan going to defend his thesis was bullying? The dean of the School of Mathematics, Hu Chuan, said a few words in a row that completely confused Zhang Yong. What was going on? However, Hu Chuan was not prepared to explain any further. Shen Liang, the chancellor of Jiangbei University, walked over. Hu Chuan quickly went up to welcome him and invited Shen Liang to sit at the main seat. However, Shen Liang said, "Today is a big event for your mathematics department. You should be the one leading. So, it's most suitable for you to take the main seat." After Hu Chuan gave way for a while, he still sat on the seat as instructed. Then, he looked out of the door from time to time as if he was waiting for someone, but there was no trace of that person. "Director Hu, when is the meeting starting?" a professor asked impatiently. "I still have a lot of things to deal with." "Yeah, I'm still waiting to start a project." Hu Chuan saw that more and more people were dissatisfied. Finally, he cleared his throat and said, "Then let's talk about something first. Many people might not know this, but not long ago, someone from our school solved Zhou's conjecture." As soon as he said that, the professors who were still grumbling immediately stopped. Then, the entire conference room was in an uproar. Some of them might not be teachers or leaders of the mathematics major. However, they knew what was Zhou's conjecture. If one could solve it, it would be a huge step forward for the entire mathematics world. This big step was actually pushed by Jiangbei University. How could they not be excited? "Dean Hu, which professor solved Zhou's conjecture? May I ask if you were the one who solved it? Has the answer passed the review?" A series of questions shot out like cannonballs. The professors, who had always been modest and gentlemanly, were now like believers who had suddenly heard the will of God and could not help shouting. Hu Chuan said, "When Zhou's conjecture was solved, a few professors and I jointly checked it. Then, we compiled it into a paper and submitted it to the Mathematics Journal. Today, the Mathematics Journal replied to the email. The answer is correct. At the same time, the World Mathematics Organization also sent us an invitation. They hope that the people who solved Zhou's conjecture can go to Poston and hold a large-scale report. When Hu Chuan said this, there was a hint of unconcealable excitement in his tone. Poston was undoubtedly one of the holy lands of mathematics. Countless mathematicians would be proud to host a report in Poston. The large-scale report was the most high-level report. To anyone, this was an absolute honor, a supreme honor. A large-scale report in Poston? Oh my God! Dean Hu, quickly tell us, who's the person who solved Zhou's conjecture? Hu Chuan said, the person who solved Zhou's conjecture is Lin Fan. Whoosh! The moment he said that, there was an uproar. Zhang Yang's eyes were wide open, and he was completely stunned. What did he just hear? Lin Fan solved Zhou's conjecture? That young undergraduate student? At this moment, Zhang Yang finally understood why Hu Chuan had said that Lin Fan's participation in the mathematical modeling competition was just for fun. He finally understood how Lin Fan would be bullying others by participating in the oral defense. For someone who solved Zhou's conjecture to participate in the mathematical modeling competition was like a high school student taking a kindergarten exam. If this was not bullying, what was? Hu Chuan continued, the main purpose of today's meeting is to make preparations for this report. It's to promote Zhou's conjecture. It's best to wait for Lin Fan to come over and discuss all of this. He then looked at the time and said, Lin Fan might have been delayed by something. Everyone, please wait a moment. I'll give him a call to ask. After saying that, Hu Chuan walked to the side and made a call. At that moment, Lin Fan was sleeping and was a little dazed. He picked up the call. Lin Fan, did you receive the news I sent you about the meeting this morning? Hu Chuan said. A meeting? What kind of meeting? Lin Fan said in a daze. You solved Zhou's conjecture. The World Mathematics Organization has invited you to go to Poston and organize a large-scale report. Hu Chuan said. He had already said that earlier. Even though he was just repeating it, he could not help but feel excited. Host a report at Poston? I'm not going. After Lin Fan finished speaking, he hung up the phone and went back to dreamland. It was not because Lin Fan was still in a daze. Even if he was awake, Lin Fan would still give the same answer. Go to Poston to host a report? In Lin Fan's heart, this could not even compare to going to Jingbei for the oral defense. That was because Poston was farther away than the capital. Moreover, he had to face a bunch of questions from foreigners. He was not interested at all. After the call was hung up, Hu Chuan was stunned for a few seconds. It was obvious that he had not reacted to Lin Fan's answer. After a while, Hu Chuan picked up his phone and dialed Lin Fan's number again. He was prepared to explain the situation. However, the only response Hu Chuan got was that Lin Fan's phone was switched off. Hu Chuan was at a loss as he walked toward his seat. Director Hu, is Lin Fan here? A professor asked in a hurry. He could not wait to see the person who solved Zhou's conjecture. He's not going to Poston for the report, Hu Chuan said, stunned. Silence. The entire conference room suddenly fell silent. Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. This was even more shocking than hearing that someone had solved Zhou's conjecture. Hosting a report at Poston was the dream stage for almost every mathematician. However, Lin Fan actually refused to go? After a long while, someone stammered, Lin Fan is still young. Maybe he doesn't even know the significance of hosting a report at Poston, which is why he rejected it. Everyone in the meeting room nodded in agreement. Chancellor Xinliang said, Dean Hu, you can explain to Lin Fan about the Poston report in detail later. If Lin Fan knows the meaning and benefits of the Poston report, I think he'd agree to go. Zhang Yong, who was sitting next to him, opened his mouth. He really wanted to say that Lin Fan would not agree. That was because not long ago, Zhang Yong had said something similar to Lin Fan. It was just that the Jingbei oral defense was now changed to the Poston report. Without the protagonist, the impromptu meeting was left unsettled. Then, Hu Chuan personally rushed to dormitory 104. When Song Yi, Jing Jinbao, Ma Zhong, and the others saw Hu Chuan, their eyes all widened. He was the dean of the mathematics department. They could only see Hu Chuan during the opening ceremony and some important meetings. At this moment, he had actually come to their dormitory. Hu Chuan said, "Lin Fan, I might not have made myself clear just now. The World Mathematics Organization would like to invite you to Poston to host a large-scale report. A large-scale report, the highest level of all the reports. At that time, you'll show the detailed solution to Zhou's conjecture to almost all famous mathematicians in the world. Currently, there are less than 10 people from Hua Nation who have held large-scale reports in Poston." When Hu Chuan said this, he could not help but raise his voice. He was excited. That expression. It was as though he was the one going to Poston for a large-scale report. However, Lin Fan just yawned and said, "Oh, but I don't want to go to Poston." These words were like a basin of cold water that was poured over Hu Chuan's head. Ma Zhong, Song Yi, and Zhang Jinbao were also extremely surprised. "Didn't you hear Hu Chuan say that less than 10 people in Hua Nation have ever held such a report?" This meant that the moment Lin Fan headed to Poston, he would become one of the 10. He would be one of the top 10 most awesome people. However, Lin Fan actually rejected it? Hu Chuan was extremely anxious and began to persuade him again. Finally, Lin Fan said, "If they really want to listen to the report, then they should come to Jiangbei. I'll host it here. If they don't want to come, then forget it." Hu Chuan felt helpless. He really wanted to continue persuading Lin Fan. However, after he said this, Lin Fan walked out. At this moment, Hu Chuan's phone rang with a light ringtone. It was the Chancellor, Xin Liang. Did Lin Fan agree to go to Poston for the report? Xin Liang asked. Clearly, he was also very concerned about this matter. After all, it represented the honor of Jiangbei University. Lin Fan doesn't want to go. Hu Chuan sighed. But he said that if they want to listen to the report, they can come to Jiangbei. There was a moment of silence on the phone. After a while, Xin Liang said, "Let's reply to the World Mathematics Organization about Lin Fan's idea first. If they agree, it might not be a bad thing for us." Hu Chuan naturally understood what Xin Liang meant. However, how difficult would it be to get so many mathematicians to come to Jiangbei? "I'll try to contact the World Mathematics Organization," Hu Chuan said. Lin Fan seemed to be a little annoyed by Jiangbei University's aggressive persuasion. He got into his Lamborghini and headed toward Ika City. At this moment, in Ika City, room 2501. Huanling's beautiful eyes were red, and tears kept falling. Huanling was supposed to fly to Japan today. However, in the VIP lounge, a Japanese man who was eating ice cream accidentally bumped into her. This was not Huanling's responsibility. As an air stewardess, she apologized profusely and carefully cleaned the other party's clothes. At that time, the Japanese man was all smiles and expressed their understanding. However, after Huangling left, the Japanese went to the airline's leader and complained about her. The leader did not distinguish between right and wrong and severely criticized Huangling. Then, in order to satisfy the Japanese, the leader cancelled Huangling's flight work and deducted 10% of her bonus this month. Zhou Ziqian gently patted Huangling's back and said, "That Japanese man is so sinister." "Huangling, calm down first. Huangling, why don't you resign as well?" she added after a pause. "Resign?" Huangling seemed to have thought of something, and her entire face blushed. Zhou Ziqian nodded. "I can see that you have feelings for Lin Fan. Women want to get married in order to live a happy life. Perhaps in the future, you'll find someone who likes you very much and is very motivated. One day, he'll also have enough money to make you happy. However, before that time comes, I'm afraid we'll already be old and frail. Can you guarantee that the man won't look for anyone else? Zhou Ziqian held Huang Ling's hand and spoke for a long time. Huang Ling, what do you think? She asked. Huang Ling bit her lower lip. After hesitating for a long time, she finally nodded her head. Creak. Creak. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Lin Fan walked in. Huang Ling, Zhou Ziqian, and Lin Fan looked at each other. As if she had done something bad, Huang Ling's face instantly turned red. Zhou Ziqian did not care about that. She pulled Huang Ling along and walked toward Lin Fan. She placed Huang Ling's hand into Lin Fan's. It was nighttime. A phone call from Yen City. Zhou Ziqian is sobbing. The next day. On the white bed, there was a touch of red. As usual, Zhou Ziqian got up early and prepared a sumptuous breakfast. Just days ago, Huang Ling would wake up very early each time. However, she often waited for Lin Fan to leave before coming out. Today, Huang Ling came to the living room with Lin Fan. Lin Fan placed an egg into Huang Ling's bowl and said, "You worked hard yesterday, so you should nourish yourself." Huang Ling seemed to have thought of something, and her face blushed. Then, she almost buried her entire head into her bowl. Seeing this, Zhou Ziqian could not help but laugh. After Lin Fan finished the entire bowl of noodles, he let out a burp. He picked up his phone and started fiddling with it. Immediately after, Huang Ling's phone rang with a crisp sound. WeChat transfer, 1 million yuan. Huang Ling's heart thumped wildly, and she was stunned. She had personally seen Lin Fan transfer $1 million to Zhou Ziqian. When she decided to become Lin Fan's woman, she thought of receiving similar treatment. However, now that she had actually obtained the money, she could not help but be extremely surprised. Lin Fan smiled. If you don't have enough, you can ask me for more. It's enough, Huang Ling quickly replied. It's enough. At that moment, Zhou Ziqian's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and picked up the call. Mom, you're calling so early? Have you had breakfast? Zhou Ziqian asked. On the phone, Wang Hui did not answer Zhou Ziqian's question. Instead, she asked directly, Ziqian, do you have 2 million? Mom, what do you need so much money for? Zhou Ziqian asked, frowning. Your father has been captured, and one of his legs has been broken. If we don't pay the ransom, all his limbs will be broken. Wang Hui's voice gradually became hoarse as she spoke, and she could not help but sob. What? How did this happen? Zhou Ziqian's heart ached, and she sniffled. Mom, I'll go back right away. Children were the flesh and blood of their parents. Were parents also not the people that their children cared about the most? As Lin Fan was sitting beside her, he easily heard the entire conversation between the two. He held Zhou Ziqian's slender waist and said, I'll go home with you. Zhou Ziqian nodded hesitantly. She did not want to trouble Lin Fan. However, Lin Fan was probably the only one who could solve her problem for her. Huang Ling, who was sitting opposite him, did not hear what had happened clearly. However, when she saw Zhou Ziqian's sad face, she knew that something big had happened. Lin Fan will definitely be able to help you solve it. Don't be sad. Do you need me to go with you? She asked after a pause. I drove a Lamborghini here yesterday. It can't fit 3 people. You can rest at home today, Lin Fan said. All right, Huang Ling said. In fact, Huang Ling did not really want to follow them. She did not know how to face Zhou Ziqian's parents. After Lin Fan and Zhou Ziqian got into the car, Lin Fan stepped on the gas and sped forward. Zhou Ziqian's hometown was located in Yen City of Jiang Province, about 300 kilometers north of Li River. 2.5 hours later, a dilapidated old street gradually appeared in their field of vision. Zhou Ziqian's house was right there. In a single-story house that was more than 10 years old, a woman who looked somewhat similar to Cho Ziqian but had gone through a lot was standing at the door and looking outside. When she saw Cho Ziqian come out of a cool supercar, her wrinkled old face showed a touch of excitement. "Ziqian, you're finally back!" Wang Hui shouted. Then, she looked at Lin Fan and asked with uncertainty, "Is he your boyfriend?" Cho Ziqian was about to explain when Lin Fan answered, "Yes, aunt. I'm Ziqian's boyfriend, Lin Fan." Cho Ziqian's heart warmed when she heard that. Wang Hui's cloudy eyes lit up. "Young man, how long have you known Ziqian?" she asked. "Mom, this isn't the time to ask questions," Cho Ziqian said with a frown. "Tell me quickly, why is Dad being detained? Why, is his leg broken?" Wang Hui's eyes turned red as she spoke. "I don't know what happened to your father yesterday. He went to an antique shop and accidentally broke an antique. The other party wanted him to pay, but he couldn't afford it. Then, they broke his leg. After that, someone called and said that if he didn't pay the money, they would break his limbs. What's he going to do in the future without his limbs? Ziqian, Lin Fan, you guys have to save him." As Wang Hui spoke, her turbid tears kept flowing out as if a tap had been turned on. "Aunt, don't worry. We'll go and save Uncle now," Lin Fan comforted her. "Besides, medical technology is so advanced now. Uncle's leg can definitely be cured." After consoling her for a while, Lin Fan and Cho Ziqian got back into the Lamborghini and headed to the place Wang Hui had told them about. At the same time, in Breeze Pavilion antique shop, a bald man with golden teeth was sitting with his legs crossed, munching on melon seeds and humming a tune leisurely. Boom! At this time, a roar suddenly came from the distance. Then, the cool-looking Lamborghini stopped in front of the shop. When the bald man saw this, his squinted eyes lit up slightly, and he quickly got up to greet them. "Welcome to Breeze Pavilion. We have things from all dynasties. Do you need me to introduce some items to you? You're detaining someone here, right?" Lin Fan said coldly. "Oh? You're here to redeem someone?" The enthusiasm on the bald man's face immediately faded. Then, he sat back on the chair and crossed his legs. "Who is he to you guys?" The bald man said unhurriedly as he cracked a melon seed. "He's my dad," Cho Ziqian said. "All right," the bald man said. "When your dad saw the blue-on-white porcelain vase from the Song dynasty in our shop yesterday, he threw it to the ground. You have to compensate for the damage. Your dad doesn't have money, so we had no choice but to detain him. If you want to take your dad away, it's easy. 2 million. Hand over the money and we'll hand you the person." "You're extorting me," Cho Ziqian shouted. "Extortion? Ha! Little girl, don't talk nonsense," the bald man said. "Aren't you afraid that we'll call the police and have them arrest you?" Cho Ziqian yelled. "Hurry up and call them. When the time comes, will they be arresting you or me?" The bald man sneered. "You?" Cho Ziqian wanted to say something, but Lin Fan said, 2 million, right? We'll pay." After saying that, Lin Fan took out a bank card. "You're the most sensible one." The bald man laughed. He grinned, revealing his shiny golden teeth. He took the bank card and swiped it on the POS system. 81 I won't attack if I'm not attacked, but if I'm attacked, I'll make sure I'll give it back to you double. Beep. A soft sound rang out. The card was swiped successfully. The bald man looked at the 2 million yuan that was quickly transferred to his account, and his big golden teeth glowed in his mouth. His whole face was full of smiles. "Can you let my dad go now?" Cho Ziqian asked. "All right," the bald man replied casually. Then, he picked up his phone and dialed a number. Send over the person who was detained yesterday. After that, he hung up the phone. Not long after, two fierce-looking men with tattoos all over their bodies carried a middle-aged man who had experienced many vicissitudes of life and slowly walked over. When Xiao Ziqian saw this, her eyes turned red, and crystal tears fell like rain. Dad! Xiao Ziqian's voice was hoarse. Ziqian, Xiao Yu raised his head with difficulty and said weakly. Obviously, he had been tortured for the past 2 days. Xiao Ziqian hurriedly stepped forward to support Xiao Yu, who had lost the support of his left leg. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, Xiao Yu said. Looking at Xiao Yu's miserable state, Lin Fan's face turned cold. We've finally resolved the matter of the broken antique, he said. Now, it's time to solve the problem of the broken leg. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere immediately became extremely heavy. In the air, there was a faint violent aura. The bald man was not scared. He said coldly, Kid, what do you mean? The two tattooed men could feel that Lin Fan was not willing to give up. They took a step forward. They seemed to be saying, Kid, think carefully before you speak. However, Lin Fan ignored them and continued, I've always been a person who doesn't offend others if they don't offend me. But if anyone offends me, I'll pay them back double. After saying these words, Lin Fan suddenly took a step forward. His fists were like the wind, and his feet were like arrows. The two tattooed men did not even have time to react before they fell to the ground, unconscious. Lin Fan looked like he had just knocked down 2 flies. His expression did not change as he continued to walk forward. Seeing this, the bald man's eyes could not help but widen. He kept retreating and shouted, You! Don't come over. My cousin is Tiger Li Xingning. He thought that Lin Fan would be scared by this name. However, the result was obviously going to disappoint him. Is that so? Lin Fan said calmly. At the same time, he took another step forward and appeared in front of the bald man. Crack! Lin Fan's leg landed on the bald man's left leg. Ah! Instantly, the whole antique shop was filled with a pig-like scream. However, it was not over yet. Rather, it was only the beginning. Lin Fan raised his leg and kicked once more. Crack! The bald man's right leg also made a soft sound. Crack! Then, it was his left hand. Crack! Finally, it was his right hand. The bald man fell to the ground, completely unconscious. Cruel and violent. He did not hold back at all. Xiao Ziqian saw it all. However, she was not afraid at all. His heart was filled with gratitude and joy. That was because Lin Fan had only attacked for her sake. Moreover, his movements were so natural and handsome. Xiao Ziqian memorized Lin Fan's every move in her heart. As she thought back, her heart started to beat faster. Ziqian, let's bring uncle back first, Lin Fan said. Oh. All right, Xiao Ziqian quickly responded. Not long after, the 3 of them returned home. When Wan Hui saw Xiao Yu return, she was extremely excited. However, after seeing the injury on his leg, his eyes turned red again. Don't worry, Xiao Yu consoled her. I'm fine. Yes. Wang Hui wiped her eyes and nodded. You must be hungry. I've made some millet congee. I'll bring you a bowl now. Xiao Yu was indeed a little hungry. He quickly gobbled down a bowl of millet congee. Xiao Ziqian asked, Dad, why did you go to that antique shop? And you even broke that antique? At the mention of this, Xiao Yu's face was filled with fear. Yesterday, after I got off work, I got into the wrong car for some reason. After coming out and taking a few steps, I tripped and broke a vase. The owner immediately rushed out and said that it was an antique from the Song dynasty. He asked me to pay 2 million yuan. How could I have that much money? After that, they captured me and they even hit my leg. After Chiu Yu finished speaking, he could not help but shiver. Obviously, he still had some lingering fear. Xiao Ziqian's eyes reddened as she shouted, "These people are simply disgraceful and tyrannical. Why haven't they been caught?" In Xiao Ziqian's eyes, they were definitely repeat offenders. Otherwise, they would not be so unscrupulous. When this matter was brought up, Xiu Yu could not help but let out a long sigh. "Young man, you were a little reckless just now. You shouldn't have hit that boss. If he's really Tiger Li's cousin, then we're in trouble." "Tiger Li?" Wang Hui asked nervously. "Who's Tiger Li?" Xiu Yu explained, "In the past, I heard people talk about Tiger Li. He's the boss of our area. He has hundreds of people under him. If he knows that we beat up his cousin, then once he comes to our door." Xiu Yu's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. The workers liked to brag when they were free at work. They talked a lot about Tiger Li burning, killing, robbing, and committing all kinds of evil. In the minds of Xiu Yu and many other workers, Tiger Li was a terrible devil. Wang Hui said in a panic, What do we do now?" "Dad, Mom, don't worry," Xiao Ziqian said. "I don't believe that there's no law in this world." Xiu Yu sighed. "There are indeed laws. But can the law protect us 24 hours a day and night? At most, we'll just move." Xiao Ziqian called out. Xiu Yu and Wang Hui sighed again. This was their home, their roots. They did not want to leave unless they had no other choice. "Uncle, Aunt, don't worry. I promise that Tiger Li won't dare to harass you," Lin Fan said. Xiu Yu and Wang Hui nodded without saying anything. However, their two old faces were still full of worry. Xiao Ziqian completely believed Lin Fan's words. In her heart, Lin Fan was an omnipotent god. Since he had said so, he would definitely be able to do it. "Uncle, let's treat your leg first," Lin Fan continued. "Please drink a bottle of this medicine." After saying that, Lin Fan spent 10 million yuan in the system to buy the bottle of medicine. Xiu Yu's mind was a mess. He was not in the mood to ask what kind of medicine it was, so he drank it directly. When the medicine entered his mouth, it did not have any taste. It was completely like mineral water. However, it did not take long for Xiu Yu's body to slowly heat up. Especially his broken left leg. It was like it was soaking in a hot spring. It felt very comfortable. As time passed, Xiu Yu's left leg, which had lost all feeling, started to sway involuntarily. Then, Xiu Yu realized that he could actually control his left leg. He could even stand up. This. Xiu Yu took a few steps around the living room, his old face full of disbelief. "Old Xiu, is your leg better?" Wang Hui was pleasantly surprised. I don't know," Xiu Yu was still a little confused. It took 100 days to recover from a serious injury. Moreover, Xiu Yu's left leg had been completely broken. Recovery would not be a matter of 100 days. Xiu Yu was even prepared to never be able to use his left leg for the rest of his life. However, in such a short time, he could stand up again? Xiao Ziqian was so happy that she cried. "Lin Fan, thank you." She understood that all of this was because of Lin Fan. It was the small bottle of medicine that Lin Fan had just given her father. Xiao Ziqian did not know what the medicine was, so she did not ask. However, in such a short period of time, it had cured her father's left leg. Xiao Ziqian understood that it was an extremely precious item. To think that Lin Fan would give such a precious item to her father without any hesitation. Xiao Ziqian's heart had completely melted. Instantly, a crisp voice rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding! Charming aura triggered an unforgettable memory. Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth to observe Xiao Ziqian. Face value, 96. Favorability, 96. At this moment, Xiu Yu and Wang Hui also reacted. Thank you, Lin Fan. Thank you. Lin Fan said, "You guys don't have to be so polite. This is what I should do." Now, Xiao Yu had not only been brought back safely, but his left leg had completely recovered. Xiao Ziqian's family was overjoyed. To celebrate, Wang Hui prepared a sumptuous lunch. Everyone was very satisfied with the food. Wang Hui took the washed clothes outside to dry. 1, 2, 3. A total of 4 black cars and a van suddenly stopped at the entrance. Then, a dozen men with different hair colors and tattoos on their arms got out of the cars. In the van, there was a pale, bald man. Seeing this, Wang Hui's heart clenched. She could not be bothered to hang the clothes to dry anymore and hurriedly ran inside. No. This is bad. Those bad guys are here. Wang Hui shouted. Xiao Yu, who had been smiling just now, instantly turned pale. I started this. I'll go talk to them, Xiao Yu said in a trembling voice. Although he was also very afraid, he had to stand up for the sake of his family. Uncle, aunt, don't worry. Leave this to me, Lin Fan said. Xiao Ziqian held onto Lin Fan's hand worriedly. After all, there were more than a dozen people outside. Lin Fan patted Xiao Ziqian's little hand and said, "Don't worry, I'm right here." Yes, yes, yes. Xiao Ziqian nodded. Then, Lin Fan strode out. Xiao Yu and Wang Hui followed closely behind. At this moment, the bald man in the van was carried out. When he saw Lin Fan and the others, a ferocious look appeared on his pale face. He shouted, "See cousin, it's them." The man with sideburns looked at Lin Fan and the rest coldly. He asked, "Which gang are you guys from?" Li Xingning was not a reckless person considering that he was able to get to his current position. He was prepared to find out about Lin Fan and the others before making plans. "You don't deserve to know," Lin Fan said calmly. Li Xingning was completely infuriated by this. The other party had first broken his cousin's limbs. Now, he was humiliating him in front of everyone. It was simply. He was too arrogant. Li Xingning thought fiercely in his heart, no matter who he is, he must die today. Damn it! You're looking for death. Beat him up. Li Xingning shouted sternly. The men with tattoos either twisted their necks or took out steel pipes from their cars. They were like a group of demons as they walked toward Lin Fan. Xiao Ziqian, Xiao Yu, and Wang Hui were all flustered. Especially Xiao Yu and Wang Hui. Their bodies trembled, and they could barely stand. On the other hand, Lin Fan's expression remained the same as if the tattooed men did not exist at all. At this moment, the roar of an engine was heard in the distance. In a fiery red Ferrari convertible, Wan Lang was driving a hot beauty through the old street. It was extremely leisurely and pleasant. When the Ferrari wanted to drive past Xiao Ziqian's house, the road was blocked by 4 cars. The beautiful girl next to him wrinkled her nose and asked, "What's with the traffic jam?" Honk, honk. Wan Lang even pressed the horn a few times. Then, he looked around. Soon, his gaze fell on a group of young men who were covered in tattoos not far away. The next moment, Wan Lang's pupils suddenly shrank. He hurriedly opened the car door and jogged forward. That was because he saw Lin Fan. "Brother Fan, I didn't expect to meet you here." Wan Lang called out in an extremely respectful tone. It had to be said that these second-generation nouveau riche were definitely much smarter than ordinary people. One had to know. Not long ago, Lin Fan had even provoked Wan Lang at Xingyue restaurant. The two of them had become enemies. Now, Lin Fan was surrounded by a group of people. If it were an ordinary person, they would probably hide at the side and clap their hands. However, Wan Lang did not hesitate at all. He immediately ran out and greeted Lin Fan respectfully. It was because Wan Lang still clearly remembered how close the Zhou family's old master, Zhou Guotao, was to Lin Fan. After that, Wan Lang even heard that Lin Fan had saved old Master Zhou's life. All of this showed that he had to build a good relationship with Lin Fan. Yen City was the car capital of Jiang Province, and the Wan family had some properties here. 2 days ago, Wan Lang came to Yen City as the general manager to deal with some matters, and then he took a beautiful woman out to play. Lin Fan nodded at Wan Lang as a form of greeting. Although it was just a simple nod, it made Wan Lang extremely happy. This scene was all seen by Li Xingning, who was standing not far away. The young master of the Wan family was so respectful to the young man. Li Xingning's heart tightened, and a bad feeling surged up madly. After a long while, he came back to his senses and looked at the tattooed men who were still walking toward Lin Fan. "Stop!" he shouted. "All of you, stop!" Hearing this, the tattooed men all stopped and looked at Li Xingning with puzzled eyes. Li Xingning did not care much and quickly walked in front of Wan Lang. He bowed and said in a respectful tone, "Hello, President Wan." In front of ordinary people, Li Xingning was a devil that could not be provoked. However, in front of Wan Lang, Li Xingning was like the most humble servant. "Who are you?" Wan Lang glanced at him and asked. "I'm Li Xingning," Li Xingning said. "The night before yesterday, at Dahua Hotel, I even gave you a toast." A few days ago, when Li Xingning learned that Dahua Hotel was going to hold an upper-class banquet, he spent a lot of effort to get an admission ticket. Li Xingning was just an insignificant person at the banquet. Wan Lang was the center of attention. Countless people swarmed Wan Lang and toasted him. Li Xingning also followed the crowd and toasted. From there, he learned of Wan Lang's identity. Wan Lang casually replied, "Oh." Then, he turned his gaze back to Lin Fan and said, "Brother Lin Fan, when did you come to Yen City? Why didn't you tell me? If I had known, I would have gone to meet you early in the morning." "I don't dare to let you, young Master Wan, welcome me," Lin Fan said calmly. "Brother Lin Fan, aren't you slapping me in the face with your words?" Wan Lang hurriedly said. Then, Wan Lang seemed to remember the tattooed men not far away and said, "Oh right, Brother Lin Fan, did you run into some trouble?" Lin Fan said, "Trouble? Not really. It's just that Tiger Li's cousin broke my girlfriend's father's leg. After that, Tiger Li found people to teach me a lesson. He broke the leg of Lin Fan's girlfriend's father? He even wanted to teach Lin Fan a lesson? How dare he? How bold!" Wan Lang's expression suddenly changed. He turned around and stared at Li Xingning like a furious King Kong. At this moment, Li Xingning's heart was beating wildly as if it had been hit by a drum. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Why, young Master Wan, this. However, without waiting for Li Xingning's explanation, Wan Lang ruthlessly kicked him in the stomach. Caught off guard, Li Xingning's entire body was directly kicked to the ground, and he curled up into a ball. Seeing this, the faces of the tattooed men behind him all changed. They raised their steel pipes and looked like they were going to teach Wan Lang a lesson. Li Xingning hurriedly covered his stomach and shouted in a panic, "Don't move, don't move." Then, Li Xingning stood up with difficulty, bent over, and said in pain, "Young Master Fan and I." Young Master Fan misunderstood. Even though Li Xingning had been beaten, he did not have any thoughts of revenge. In fact, he had to be even more careful to please the two men in front of him. He knew that he could not afford to offend the other party. He could let his men beat these guys up. However, what would happen after the fight? After that, he would completely disappear from this world. *CK This misunderstanding. Wan Lang kicked Li Xingning to the ground again. Back in Jingbei, Wan Lang had already offended Lin Fan. Now, he finally had the chance to befriend Lin Fan. Wan Lang absolutely would not allow anyone to destroy this chance. Li Xingning had just greeted him. What if Lin Fan thought that he had a good relationship with him? What if he thought that he was the one who hired these people to deal with his girlfriend's father? The consequences. They were simply terrifying. Thus, Wan Lang did not hold back at all. Li Xingning held his stomach and rolled on the ground in pain. Wan Lang turned around and said, "Brother Lin Fan, How do you think we should handle this? I'll definitely help you get it done properly. Li Xingning quickly endured the pain and lay on the ground. He kept kowtowing to Lin Fan. Brother Lin Fan, no, young Master Fan, I'm sorry. I didn't discipline my cousin well. Li Xingning, right? Lin Fan squatted down and asked. Yes, Li Xingning said hurriedly. In the future, you'll have to discipline him well. If something similar happens again, it won't end well. Do you understand? Lin Fan said. I understand. Thank you, young Master Fan. Thank you, young Master Fan. Li Xingning kowtowed again. Alright, take your people and get lost, Lin Fan said. Yes. Thank you, young Master Fan. Goodbye, young Master Fan. Goodbye, young Master Wan. After Li Xingning finished speaking, he rolled and crawled away quickly. Very quickly, the old street that was originally a little congested became clear again. Wan Lang said, Brother Lin Fan, it's rare for you to come to Yen City. I wonder if I'll have the chance to treat you to dinner tonight? I'll do my part as the host. Even without Wan Lang, Lin Fan could have easily dealt with the tattooed men. However, no matter what, Wan Lang had done his part. He still had to show him some face. Alright, you decide on the place, then. Lin Fan nodded. Alright. Wan Lang said happily. Wan Lang also understood that Lin Fan had to deal with some matters with his girlfriend's family. In addition, he had also arranged to have a meal together. After exchanging a few more words, he quickly left. Even now, Xiao Yu and Wang Hui were still a little stunned. The terrifying Tiger Li was kicked twice just like that? Then, he had to kowtow to Lin Fan and admit his mistakes? What kind of a boyfriend had their daughter found? On the other hand, Xiao Ziqian's eyes were filled with little stars. Uncle, Aunt, it's fine now. Let's go in, Lin Fan said with a smile. Alright, let's go in. Xiao Yu and Wang Hui finally reacted and responded. In the blink of an eye, the sun was setting. The exterior of Dahua Hotel was like a huge arch. It was brightly lit at night and was a landmark building in Yen City. At this moment, Wan Lang was already waiting at the entrance of Dahua Hotel. When he saw a Lamborghini coming from a distance, he quickly went over to greet the driver. Lin Fan held Xiao Ziqian's hand and slowly walked out of the car. Then, a valet took the car keys and quickly drove the car to the parking lot. You've been waiting for a long time, right? Lin Fan asked. No, I've only been here for a while, Wan Lang said. He exclaimed, Brother Lin Fan, you have such good taste. Sister-in-law is so beautiful. Young Master Wan, you're too good at complimenting people, Xiao Ziqian laughed. I'm not complimenting anyone, it's the truth. By the way, sister-in-law, don't call me young Master Wan. It's too distant. You can just call me Lil Wan Lang or Wan Lang. Both are fine, Wan Lang said. Then I'll call you by your name, Xiao Ziqian said. Alright. Brother Lin Fan, sister-in-law, shall we go in? Wan Lang said. Lin Fan nodded his head. Just like that, the three of them slowly walked into Dahua Hotel under the gazes of many people in the distance. Even the young master of the Wan family had to personally welcome the guy at the door. Who was he? There was another big shot in Yen City. After Lin Fan and the other two entered room 666, the waiter started to serve the dishes. Australian lobster, top-grade Wagyu beef, papaya stewed snow toad, top-grade abalone. Many exquisite dishes quickly filled the entire table. Then, the waiter opened a bottle of 1982 Lafite. Wan Lang raised his wine glass and said, Brother Lin Fan, welcome to Yen City. Lin Fan raised his glass and clinked it lightly. Wan Lang finished it in one gulp. Then, he poured himself another glass and said, Sister-in-law, I wish you'll get younger and more beautiful. Thank you, Xiao Ziqian said with a smile. After a few glasses of wine, the atmosphere in the room became more lively, and the three of them were very happy. After the meal, Lin Fan and Xiao Ziqian did not go home. Instead, they booked a presidential suite at Dahua Hotel. Perhaps it was because they had been in the car for the whole day, but Xiao Ziqian worked out more than usual. She went up and down, tireless. The two people did not get any sleep. The next day, when the sun was high in the sky, Xiao Ziqian was still lying lazily on the bed like a lazy cat. Lin Fan did not disturb her. He picked up his phone. As usual, there was an unread message on the screen. Notice from China Merchant Bank, 1,430,000 yuan was deposited into your account. Name, Lin Fan. Level, LV5. Ding. System upgraded to level 5. Level 5 reward, 20 yuan for every breath, 20 yuan for every second of sleep, and 20 yuan for every step taken. Rewards are distributed at 12 a.m. daily. Upgrade cost, 6.34 million/50 million, not including gifts and gambling. In addition, all items obtained from the system are prohibited from being traded. Skills, professional driving skills, charming aura, 5% chance to trigger love at first sight and unforgettable love, violent aesthetics, drinking gentleman, absolute focus, 10% chance to trigger a flash of inspiration. Professional piloting skills, professional go skills, energy shield. Funds, 150.2 million. Then, Lin Fan's eyes fell on the 500 red packets on his phone. He muttered in his heart, I should be able to gather 1,000 in a few days. Swish! At that moment, Xiao Ziqian slowly opened her beautiful eyes. She tried her best to stretch her body before sitting up slowly. You must be tired from yesterday. Aren't you going to rest? Lin Fan asked. It's fine. I'm already well rested, Xiao Ziqian said. After breakfast, the two of them drove the Lamborghini back to the old street. Just as he got out of the car, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 500 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained the skill, Perfume Expert. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Today, Lin Fan earned a total of 40,503 yuan. He immediately turned his attention to Perfume Expert. Perfume Expert, a single whiff can tell 100 cents. As a gentleman, how can you not understand perfume? You'll understand a perfume's formula, production, and classification. It can also increase infinite charm. Perfume? Lin Fan's face was filled with doubt. Then, he took a light breath and smelled the fragrance on Xiao Ziqian's body. Jasmine, rose, lily. It's a perfume made by drying, crushing, filtering, and other steps. The entire process of making the perfume appeared in Lin Fan's mind like a scene from a movie. It was extremely magical. At this time, Li Xingning jogged over from a distance. Young Master Fan, I'm really sorry for yesterday. He bowed and said respectfully. This card contains the 2 million yuan you paid yesterday, as well as some compensation for uncle and aunt's physical and mental losses. Lin Fan did not reject and kept the card. Seeing this, Li Xingning heaved a long sigh of relief. Even though Lin Fan had already let him off yesterday. However, his heart was a mess, and he could not sleep for the whole night. Li Xingning was very clear that if a young master like Lin Fan wanted to deal with him, he probably only needed to move his fingers. Therefore, he had been waiting in the alley in the distance since early morning, hoping to make amends again. Now that Lin Fan had accepted his bank card, Li Xingning was completely at ease. Young Master Fan, I won't disturb you any longer. After Li Xingning finished speaking, he bent down and quickly left. At this moment, Wang Hui heard the sounds and walked out slowly. She said happily, Lin Fan, Ziqian, you guys are back? Are you hungry? I'll go cook for you now. Aunt, there's no need to trouble yourself. We've already eaten, Lin Fan said. Then let's go in and have some tea, Wang Hui said. The tea leaves were planted by Wang Hui herself and it was very fragrant. Lin Fan drank 2 big cups of it and was extremely satisfied. Ziqian, Lin Fan, you guys aren't young anymore. Have you considered when to get married? Wang Hui asked. Qiu Ziqian's heart tightened. Without waiting for Lin Fan's reply, she quickly said, Mom, we won't get married. She was afraid that Lin Fan would be put in a difficult position if her parents urged her to get married. If this caused Lin Fan to distance himself from her, she would truly regret it. This. I see, Wang Hui said with some regret. At that moment, Lin Fan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID before picking up the call. Dean Hu, what's the matter? Lin Fan asked. Lin Fan, didn't you say you didn't want to go to Poston to do the report? We've contacted the World Mathematics Organization and are preparing to hold a report in Zhangbei. When do you think it's convenient? Hu Chuan asked. In the next few days, Lin Fan said. Sure. Dean Hu said after thinking for a while. After hanging up, Lin Fan saw that it was getting late. Uncle, Aunt, we'll be going back to Zhangbei first, he said. You must have something to do. We won't keep you. Come to Yen City often if you have the chance, Xiu Yu said. Lin Fan nodded and took out the bank card that Li Xingning had just given him. Uncle, Aunt, you guys take this, Lin Fan said. We can't accept it, Xiu Yu said. Yeah, how can we take your money? Wang Hui quickly followed. Lin Fan smiled. You've misunderstood. This is the compensation that Li Xingning just sent over. Xiu Yu and Wang Hui still waved their hands, indicating their refusal. Lin Fan was helpless. He could only say to Qiu Ziqian, you should help to persuade them too. Mom, Dad, just accept it, Qiu Ziqian said. When the two of them heard their child say the same things, they hesitated for a moment before accepting the card. After Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian left. Honey, how much money do you think is in this card? Qiu Yu asked. How would I know? Let's go take a look, Wang Hui said. Then, the two of them walked to the ATM machine not far away. The next moment, the two of them opened their mouths wide. That was because there was a total of 5 million yuan in the card. They would never have hoped to get so much money in their lifetime. They had never seen such an astronomical figure. At the venue of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition's oral defense in Jingbei, the geniuses from Huaqing University, Capital University, Haishan University, and many other top universities in the country gathered together to intensely defend their dissertation. The judges and professors sitting above either nodded or pondered. Under the anticipation of all the genius students, the awards were announced one by one. The third national prize goes to Zhang Tsong of Haishan University, Yuzhen, Tanmeijiao. The second national prize goes to Chen Jian, Song Zilong, and Li Fun from the University of Science and Technology. The first national prize goes to Huaqing University's Nia Zhenjiang, Pan Difei, Huang Jichang. Winners of the Higher Education Cup are Lin Fan, Xiaobing, and Xia Shui from Jiangbei University. As the list of winners was released, some people were happy while others sighed. When the winners of the Higher Education Cup were revealed, everyone revealed a look of disbelief. Jiangbei University was indeed a top university. However, their mathematics had always been at the bottom of the top universities. In the previous mathematical modeling competitions, they rarely even won national awards. This time, they had actually won the Higher Education Cup? Many people looked around, trying to find Lin Fan and the others but to no avail. There's no need to look for them, someone said. The people from Jiangbei University are not here. What? They didn't come for the oral defense and directly won the Higher Education Cup? Could there be a conspiracy behind this? The people around immediately started shouting. I heard that the person named Lin Fan solved Zhou's conjecture and is going to hold a report at Jiangbei University. So, he has no time for the oral defense, another person said in a low voice. Zhou's conjecture? Hiss. Some people were extremely surprised. Nie Junjiang of Huaqing University snorted. So what if he solved Zhou's conjecture? What does this have to do with mathematical modeling? What's more, he might not have solved Zhou's conjecture. The higher education cup of the mathematical modeling competition had always been won by Huaqing University and Capital University. This year, Nie Junjiang made a lot of preparations, and his goal was to win the higher education cup. However, he only won the first prize. How could he not be angry? However, there were times when anger was of no use. At that moment, Lin Fan was driving his Lamborghini toward Jiangbei. His phone suddenly rang. Lin Fan answered the call in his car. Lin Fan, I have good news for you. In regards to the National Mathematical Modeling Competition, you won the Higher Education Cup. Hu Chuan's extremely excited voice came from the phone. Qiu Ziqian, who was beside him, was surprised. Even though she did not major in mathematics and it had been 2 years since she graduated, Qiu Ziqian had also heard of the famous Higher Education Cup. That was one of the highest awards in the mathematics department. Lin Fan was handsome, rich, and loyal. Now, she found out that he was a top student. Heavens! What kind of godlike man had she found? Qiu Ziqian looked at Lin Fan with her beautiful eyes, which were full of emotion. In response to Hu Chuan's words, Lin Fan only said, "Oh." In truth, he had no interest in the Higher Education Cup. Otherwise, Lin Fan would not have refused to go to Jingbei. When Hu Chuan heard Lin Fan's reply, he was at a loss for words. That was the Higher Education Cup. Yet he gave such a casual response? Did he have to be so calm? However, Hu Chuan quickly thought about how Lin Fan had solved Zhou's conjecture and felt relieved. Lu Zhoukoftan said, "Oh yeah, we contacted the World Mathematics Organization. We're going to hold the report this Saturday. If you have time in the next few days, do some preparations." "Alright," Lin Fan replied casually. It was already nighttime when they returned to Jiangbei. Ika City, room 2501. Huan Ling was watching TV in the living room. She was drowsy and bored. Creak! Creak! At this moment, the door slowly opened. When Huan Ling saw Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian, she immediately perked up. "Ziqian, has your family's problem been resolved?" she asked. "It's settled. It's all thanks to you, darling," Qiu Ziqian said. As she spoke, she seemed to recall the scene of Lin Fan showing off his power and teaching the bald man and Li Xingning a lesson. She could not help but look at Lin Fan with affection. Qiu Ziqian continued, "Huang Ling, do you know that he won the Higher Education Cup in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition today?" "Higher Education Cup? Really?" Huang Ling cried out in surprise. Obviously, she had also heard of the Higher Education Cup. That was definitely something that only top students could dream of achieving. A legendary prodigy was actually standing in front of her? How could it be fake? Qiu Ziqian smiled. "By the way, have the clothes I asked you to buy arrived?" he asked. "Why yes, they're here." Huan Ling lowered her head and whispered. She thought of those clothes and her face instantly turned red. Qiu Ziqian laughed. "That's good. I'll change into that set of clothes tonight to celebrate my darling winning the Higher Education Cup." Hearing this, Huan Ling buried her little head into her collar, looking like a little ostrich. She was extremely cute. It was nighttime. There was no sleep in Ika City, room 2501. The next day, Lin Fan drove his Lamborghini and sped toward Jiangbei University. When he arrived at a traffic light, bang! A white Porsche Cayenne suddenly crashed into him. Then, a beautiful woman walked over. She had long hair, delicate facial features, and a white dress that accentuated her perfect body. She was mature and full of charm. Lin Fan compared her to Han Tian in his heart. Their figures were similar, but her facial features were even better. At the same time, Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth. Face value, 95. Favorability, 70. Seeing this, Lin Fan's face was filled with a weird expression. Her face value was 95, which was within his expectations. However, a favorable impression of 70? What was going on? She had hit his car, but he had not made his stand clear. Logically speaking, there should not be such a high favorability, right? As the beautiful lady got closer, a familiar scent drifted to Lin Fan's nose. The beauty said in a magnetic tone, "It's my fault. Don't worry, I'll definitely compensate you. Also, to express my apology for the car accident, let me treat you to a meal," she added after a pause. Lin Fan was about to reply. At this moment, a clear voice rang out in his mind. New mission, feasting on women. Treat 5 beauties with a score of 90 or more points to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 0/5. Mission? Another mission. After opening the silver packets a few times, Lin Fan was filled with anticipation. Lin Fan's eyes flickered as he said, "How can I let a beauty treat me? I should be the one treating the beauty to a meal." The beauty took 2 steps forward and let out a sweet breath. She smiled and said, "I didn't know that you're an expert in love. I like it." The rear-end collision was not serious this time. In fact, Lin Fan's Lamborghini did not even have a single scratch on it. It was like the 2 cars were just gently hugging each other. Under Lin Fan's lead, the 2 of them quickly arrived at Star located in the center of Zhangbei. This restaurant had the most luxurious ingredients and the best chefs. The food was excellent. Correspondingly, the price was also extremely high. "Star?" the beauty asked. "You're really generous." Obviously, she had heard of the name Star. Lin Fan smiled. "This place shouldn't be a problem for you, right? I've never been here for a meal. This is my first time." The beautiful lady looked at Lin Fan pitifully. It was as though Lin Fan had done something to her. Was he being teased? "Let's go in first." Lin Fan coughed out gently. When the 2 of them walked into the restaurant, the crisp sound of a bell ringing echoed in their ears. Then, a tall waitress came up to them. "Welcome to Star. Do you have an appointment?" the waitress asked. "No." Lin Fan shook his head. The waitress looked at the tablet in her hand and said, "Then I guess you can only sit near the edge." Lin Fan turned around and looked at the beautiful lady beside him. "It's the same no matter where we eat," the beauty said. "This way, please," the waitress said. Soon, the 2 of them were arranged to sit at the back. "I don't think I've introduced myself yet." "My name is Xia Yan," the beautiful lady said. "Xia." At this moment, Lin Fan finally remembered why he felt that Xia Yan's scent was a little familiar. That was because Xia Bing and Xia Shui had almost the same smell. If it were in the past, Lin Fan might not have been able to tell. However, now that he had perfume expert, he could easily remember and distinguish different smells. Lin Fan had seen Xia Bing and Xia Shui a few times and smelled their scent many times. Naturally, he would not forget it. In fact, it was this familiar smell that made Lin Fan want to treat Xia Yan. They both had the same surname and the same taste. Could they be? Lin Fan could not help but start to size Xia Yan up. Her facial features were different from Xia Bing's and Xia Shui's. She was filled with a mature aura, while the girls were as cute as dolls. However, their figures were all perfect. At that moment, Lin Fan was already starting to suspect if his car getting hit was a coincidence. Just as Lin Fan was feeling puzzled, sweet caviar was served while emitting white smoke. The 3 different types of caviar, yellow, gray, and green, formed a beautiful rainbow platter. Even though Xia Yan had eaten many delicacies before, her beautiful eyes still lit up slightly when the caviar entered her mouth. Crisp, soft, tender, and smooth. It was an incomparable enjoyment. At this moment, 2 glasses of whiskey were placed in front of them. "Cheers," Lin Fan said. "Cheers," Xia Yan added. After she finished speaking, she took a big gulp and praised, "It's good." As for Lin Fan, he first swirled the glass. Then, he slowly poured it into his mouth. His actions were gentle and slow, and he savored the taste carefully. Seeing this, Xia Yan, who was sitting opposite him, was a little stunned. Although Lin Fan did not comment on the whiskey, his expression and actions seemed to be able to speak. He was noble, free, and charming. Drinking gentleman had infinite charm. At this moment, the fish was served. Xia Yan retracted her gaze and quickly picked up a piece of fish as if she was trying to avoid him. It melted in her mouth and was extremely fragrant. Xia Yan nodded again. After that, it was pine velvet, foie gras, and beef. The portion of each dish was not big, but the taste was excellent, making people feel like they were on top of the clouds. After a moment, Xia Yan wiped her cherry-like lips and said, "I'm so full." Lin Fan did a quick calculation of the price. After confirming that it was over 100,000, he said, "Waiter, bill please." "Hello, with the 10% service charge, the total is 122,000 yuan, the waitress said. Lin Fan took out his bank card. Beep. After a light sound, the purchase was successful. Then, Lin Fan looked at the mission. New mission, feasting on women. Treat 5 beauties with a score of 90 or more points to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 1/5. Seeing this, Lin Fan's lips curled. Xia Yan, who was sitting opposite him, clicked her tongue and said, 120,000 yuan for a meal. I've really been extravagant today. At this moment, Xia Yan's cell phone rang with a light ringtone. Alright, I'm coming over now. After Xia Yan hung up the phone, she said to Lin Fan, "Do you need me to take your car to a workshop?" Lin Fan shook his head. There's no damage. Why would I need to go to a workshop? Then we'll keep in touch in the future. Xia Yan shook her phone and added him on WeChat. Then, she got into her Porsche and drove away. Lin Fan rubbed his stomach and turned around to head toward Ika City. He had just eaten 120,000 yuan worth of food. However, there was only a little bit of each dish, and he was not full at all. Lin Fan was prepared to pick up Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling to eat again. Firstly, it was to complete his mission. Secondly, it was to fill his stomach. However, before he could return to Ika City, he met the manager of Lianjia, Han Tian, on the way. Lin Fan parked his car at the side. Mr. Lin, Han Tian said in surprise. Manager Han, what a coincidence. Lin Fan said. Are you bringing people to look at houses? Yes, the client just left a while ago, Han Tian said. Manager Han, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Lin Fan asked. Why don't we have a meal together? Eating with Mr. Lin? When Han Tian heard this, her heart started to beat faster. Sure. She blurted out. Thus, Lin Fan drove Han Tian back to Star. After walking through the restaurant's door, the familiar soft sound of a bell rippled slightly. Then, the waitress quickly came up to them. However, when she saw Lin Fan, she was stunned for a moment. Did he not just come to have lunch? Could it be that he had left something behind? Thinking of this, the waitress was about to ask. Lin Fan saw that the waitress was in a daze and thought that there were no more available tables. We don't have a reservation, he said. Are there no available tables now? Didn't you leave something behind? Then, the waitress noticed that Han Tian, who was standing next to Lin Fan, was not the woman who was with Lin Fan before. A word immediately appeared in her mind. Player. After a while, the waitress finally reacted and said, Oh, there's still some space. This way, please. Then, Lin Fan was brought to the table where he had just had lunch with Xia Yin. Soon, the same dishes were served on the table. Han Tian had a great time eating. On one hand, the dishes were indeed delicious. On the other hand, it was also because this was the first time she was having a meal with Lin Fan. When she found out that the meal cost 122,000 yuan, Han Tian was both shocked and happy. Although Han Tian felt that the food here was very delicious and expected the price to not be cheap, 122,000 yuan was still beyond her imagination. Lin Fan was willing to spend so much money to treat her to a meal. Did he? As Han Tian thought of this, a touch of shyness appeared on her face. After eating 2 meals in a row, Lin Fan's stomach was almost full. After parting ways with Han Tian, he went straight to Zhongbei University. At this moment, Counselor Sun Yaodong happened to see Lin Fan. His entire face was immediately filled with a smile. He was like a good brother, placing his hand on Lin Fan's shoulder. I told you that you're outstanding and you'd definitely bring glory to our class, didn't I? As expected. You even brought back the higher education cup. Good. Very good. Lin Fan's lips twitched. Outstanding ability? Glory for the class? As expected, Counselor Sun only knew how to say these 2 things. Sun Yaodong continued, you've brought glory to the school, so the school will definitely reward you. Since you've brought back the higher education cup, you'll be given a sum of bonus and credits. Lin Fan did not care about any of this. Sun Yaodong added, alright, you have to prepare for the report on Saturday. Try to bring glory to our class. As he spoke, he patted Lin Fan's shoulder and left in satisfaction. Lin Fan had just walked into the classroom when Song Yi, Ma Zhong, and Zhang Jinbao surrounded him. Brother Lin Fan, I heard that you won the higher education cup and solved Zhou's conjecture? Song Yi asked. Yeah, Lin Fan replied casually. Instantly, Song Yi, Ma Zhong, and Zhang Jinbao looked at Lin Fan as if he were a god surrounded by golden light. A deity? That was right. He was immortal. In their eyes, the person who won the higher education cup and solved Zhou's conjecture was not human at all. It was the work of a god. Brother Lin Fan, I'll kneel down to you. The 3 of them shouted in unison. Lin Fan looked at their funny faces and could not help but laugh. At this moment, Song Jiasen walked over and smiled. Congratulations on winning Zhongbei University's first higher education cup. Thank you, Lin Fan said. After a pause, he added, by the way, do you have time for dinner tonight? Who knew how many people wanted to invite Song Jiasen to dinner? However, she rejected all of them without exception. As for Lin Fan's invitation, she just nodded and said, it seems. I'm going to have a good meal tonight. At this moment, the old professor walked into the classroom and started his lullaby-like lecture. Lin Fan listened and soon fell asleep. He had a very comfortable sleep. At night, Lin Fan drove Song Jiasen to Star. As he walked through the door, he heard a familiar sound. The waitress came up to him again. When she saw Lin Fan, her face was filled with shock. Taking 3 girls to a meal in a row in one day? All of them were super beautiful too. How could she not be surprised? Lin Fan did not care much and said, do you have an available table? Yes, we do, the waitress replied. Thus, Lin Fan was brought to the table where he had his 2 lunches. Soon, the exquisite dishes were served. During the entire meal, Song Jiasen maintained her calm and indifferent attitude. Obviously, she had eaten similar food before. She was not too surprised by the price tag of 122,000 yuan. Not to mention 120,000 for a meal, Song Jiasen had even tried a bottle of wine that cost 1 million. After the meal, Lin Fan sent Song Jiasen back and headed straight to Ika City. Originally, Lin Fan had wanted to bring Huang Ling and Qiu Ziqian to Star for a meal. However, the 2 of them had already had dinner. Lin Fan could only push it back to the next day. At this moment, in the Xia family. Today, the Xia family had prepared a very sumptuous dinner. This was because Xia Bing and Xia Shui won the Higher Education Cup. This was a great honor that was worth celebrating. The family gathered together, raised their glasses, and gently clinked them. If Lin Fan was here, he would definitely be shocked. Xia Yan was indeed one family with Xia Bing and Xia Shui. Xia Yan gave Xia Bing and Xia Shui a lot of meat and said, "Eat more, then you can get chubby." Alright, Xia Bing and Xia Shui said. Good girls. Xia Yan laughed. I heard that a large part of the reason why you guys were able to win the Higher Education Cup was because of a teammate called Lin Fan. Why didn't you invite Lin Fan to our house today? Xia Yan asked. Xia Bing's and Xia Shui's chopsticks paused slightly, but they did not answer. Xia Yan continued, by the way, didn't you guys say that you have a boyfriend? When are you bringing him back? It's good to introduce him to your mother. Xia Bing and Xia Shui did not answer, but their heads were almost buried in their bowls. Seeing this, the corners of Xia Yan's mouth curled up slightly. She really liked to see the embarrassed look on the two of them. At the side, the white-haired elderly said, "Don't just talk about Xiao Bing and Xiao Shui. You're not young anymore. When are you going to bring a boyfriend back? Back then, when you brought Xiao Bing and Xiao Shui back from the orphanage, you said that you would wait for them to grow up before getting married. And now that Xiao Bing and Xiao Shui have boyfriends, are you going to wait for them to get married and have children before you get married?" Hearing this, Xia Yan could not help but feel a headache. Dad, we're here to celebrate Xiao Bing and Xiao Shui winning the Higher Education Cup. Let's not talk about this yet. Come, let's have another drink. Poston. An old professor with thick glasses was doing his research seriously. Professor Jeffries, who was wearing a white shirt, said, "Professor Edison, are you going to Jiangbei this Saturday?" Jiangbei in Hua Nation? What is that place? The white-haired Edison asked. It's a city in central Hua Nation. You should know that Zhou's conjecture was solved by a man from Hua Nation. He'll be holding a report on Saturday in Jiangbei, Hua Nation, Jeffries said. A report in Hua Nation? Edison frowned and asked, why didn't he come to Poston? He has the right to choose, Jeffries said, shrugging. We can't force it. Edison sighed and said, although I really want to listen to his report, it's a pity that I still have a lot of urgent matters to deal with, so I'm afraid I can't go that far. All right, Jeffries said. I'll ask Professor Send if he wants to go with Professor Emile and the others. The next day, after Lin Fan had breakfast, he was not in a hurry to go to Jiangbei University. Instead, he accompanied Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling, leisurely watching TV and chatting. By the way, Huang Ling, how much money do you have left? Lin Fan asked. About 950,000, Huang Ling replied after some thought. Lin Fan was shocked. You still have that much? Didn't you buy a car, cosmetics, or other things? One had to know that Huang Ling had been following him for almost a week. It had been such a long time. Yet she only spent 50,000 yuan? I've been staying with Ziqian, so her car is enough for both of us. But I did buy some makeup, Huang Ling said. You don't have to be so frugal. Just buy whatever you want, Lin Fan said with a smile. All right, Huang Ling said. The three of them were chatting and laughing together. In the blink of an eye, it was time for dinner. Yesterday, Lin Fan had specially driven the G-Class back. His goal was to bring Qiu Ziqian and Huang Ling out for a meal. Lin Fan had been to Star 3 times, so he was very familiar with the place. Not long after, he parked the G-Class at the entrance. Ding! Ding! A familiar sound was heard, and the waitress came up to him immediately. When she saw Lin Fan, she was stunned. That was because Lin Fan had brought a different beauty today. Moreover, he had brought two of them at once. This way, please, the waitress said in a daze. As the three of them were having a meal together, Lin Fan specially ordered a few more dishes. Huang Ling and Xiao Ziqian were eating the best food, their faces full of enjoyment. When the last dish was finished, both of their stomachs were bulging. "Excuse me," the waitress said. "Including the service charge, the total is 231,000 yuan. When Huang Ling and Xiao Ziqian heard this, they were slightly stunned. This meal was indeed very delicious. However, 231,000 yuan? In other words, they had just eaten a car? Lin Fan did not think too much about it and took out his bank card. Beep. With a light sound, the card was successfully swiped. Then, he turned his attention to the system. Mission, feasting on women. Treat 5 beauties who score a face value of 90 points and above to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 4/5. Lin Fan thought to himself, as expected, treating Huang Ling and Xiao Ziqian to a meal at once can only be considered as one time. Xiao Ziqian and Huang Ling finally came back to their senses when they heard the sound of the card. The two of them gave Lin Fan a kiss on the face. They could not help themselves. It was very easy to make a girl happy. The guy just needed to dote on her, love her, and care about her. Today, Lin Fan treated them to a meal that cost 200,000 yuan. At that moment, Xiao Ziqian and Huang Ling felt as if they were completely wrapped in happiness. The waitress standing next to them was stunned again. At first, she still had a trace of doubt in her heart. Perhaps Lin Fan was only treating his female colleagues and relatives to a meal. Now, the waitress realized that she was wrong. These beautiful women were really his women. Lin Fan naturally did not know about the change in the waitress's mind. After he finished his meal, he sent Huang Ling and Xiao Ziqian back. At this moment, Lin Fan only needed to treat one more woman who had a face value of 90 points and above to a meal and he would be able to complete his mission. He thought for a while, then finally took out his phone and sent a message. Zhangbei University. Xia Bing and Xia Shui had just returned to the dormitory when their mobile phones vibrated slightly. It turned out to be a WeChat message from Xia Yan. Xia Yan, remember to finish all the dishes you brought over this afternoon. I, your sister, took the entire afternoon to finish cooking yesterday. Yesterday, in order to celebrate Xia Bing and Xia Shui winning the higher education cup, Xia Yan personally cooked a lot of dishes. However, the family's food intake was limited, so there were still many dishes left. At Xia Yan's request, she packed all the dishes and let Xia Bing and Xia Shui bring them to school to eat. Xia Bing and Xia Shui, okay. Xia Yan, that's great. Xia Bing and Xia Shui did as Xia Yan said. They took the food they brought and went downstairs to heat it up by asking the lady in charge of the dormitory. Then, they returned to the dormitory. At this moment, their phones vibrated again. Lin Fan, have you guys eaten? If you haven't, how about we eat together later? Lin Fan had taken the initiative to send them a message. Furthermore, he wanted to have a meal with them. After seeing this message, Xia Bing and Xia Shui were so excited that their little faces flushed red. Xia Bing and Xia Shui replied, we haven't eaten yet. Lin Fan, then I'll come and pick you guys up? Xia Bing and Xia Shui replied, yes, yes. After Xia Bing and Xia Shui sent the message, they directly put the freshly heated food aside. Then, they quickly walked outside. What about the food personally made by Xia Yan? So what? How could it be more important than eating with Lin Fan? After Xia Bing and Xia Yan got into the Mercedes-Benz G-Class, the first thing they did was take out the energy drink. Lin Fan smiled and opened the 2 bottles. He took a sip and said, let's go. After he finished speaking, he stepped on the accelerator and went straight to Star. Ding! Ding! After a clear and melodious sound was heard, the female waitress quickly came to greet him. When her gaze landed on Lin Fan, she was stunned once more. Yesterday, he had treated 3 different beauties to a meal. Just now, he treated 2 beautiful women to a meal at the same time. Now, he was having a meal with a pair of twins. Heavens! He was not just a player. He was a Casanova. Lin Fan did not care much about it. He went to the tablet he had sat at 4 times in a row. Then, he ordered another serving according to the food he had just eaten. Very quickly, a series of top-notch delicacies were served. During this meal, Xia Bing and Xia Shui had been burying their heads in their food, and their faces were filled with happy smiles from beginning to end. This was not because the food was delicious or because the ingredients were expensive. It was because they were eating with Lin Fan, and that was enough. Beep. After Lin Fan successfully paid the 231,000 yuan, a clear voice finally sounded in his mind. Mission completed, feasting on women. Treat 5 beauties who score a face value of 90 points and above to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 5/5. Lin Fan's lips curled up. The mission was finally completed. Lin Fan sent Xia Bing and Xia Shui to the female dormitory. He looked at their porcelain doll-like faces and could not help but pinch them gently. Immediately, Xia Bing and Xia Shui's pretty faces were like ripe tomatoes, bright red. Lin Fan looked at their shy expressions and could not help but be interested. He slowly moved his head over, like a dragonfly touching the water, and flashed past. In an instant, Xia Bing and Xia Shui widened their beautiful eyes. Their pretty faces, ears, neck. Their snow-white skin had turned completely red. Seeing this. Alright, you guys should go. Lin Fan could not help but smile. Yes, yes. Xia Bing and Xia Shui responded at the same time. Then, they ran back to the dormitory as if they were running for their lives. Lin Fan waited for them to go upstairs before he turned around and returned to the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Then, he stepped on the accelerator and drove away. As soon as Lin Fan left, Xia Bing's and Xia Shui's little heads popped out of the dormitory window. They were panting, their faces still flushed. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, their phones rang. It turned out that Xia Yan was video calling the group. Xia Bing and Xia Shui saw that Lin Fan was no longer downstairs, so they directly accepted the video call. Why are you two blushing so hard? Xia Yan chuckled. Did you just exercise with your boyfriend? Xia Bing's and Xia Shui's beautiful faces instantly turned even redder. They stuttered, pinch. He pinched our faces. He pinched your faces? Xia Yan was suspicious. He even kissed us. Ha ha ha. Xia Yan laughed. However, in the next moment, the smile on her face froze. Xia Yan shouted, Xia Bing, Xia Shui. Didn't you guys eat the packed food? He asked us out for a meal. I made the food myself. Xia Yan shouted. Xia Bing and Xia Shui did not say anything, but their expressions clearly said, but that's not as important as eating with Lin Fan. At that moment, Lin Fan had already arrived at the parking lot. He did not leave immediately but focused on the silver packet. 5 silver packets. Let's see what I can get, he mumbled. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 800,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received a Pagani Huayra. Ding. Congratulations, you've obtained a fire-resistant energy shield. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 500,000 yuan. Ding. Congratulations, you've received 300,000 yuan. With 5 silver packets, Lin Fan received a total of 1.6 million yuan. He did not care about the money. His gaze immediately fell on the fire-resistant energy shield. Fire-resistant energy shield, it'll continuously absorb the energy in the world. When it encounters unbearable high temperatures, it'll automatically form a transparent protective shield to protect the host from the high temperatures. Seeing this, Lin Fan's lips curled up. At least I didn't waste my energy on the mission. This item is not bad. Then, he slowly raised his head and happened to see a super sports car with an extremely cool design appear in front of him. Even Lin Fan's eyes lit up. He put his phone in his pocket and found strange-looking car keys in it. He gently unlocked the car. Whoosh! The headlights of the supercar in front of him flashed slightly. Evidently, this was the Pagani Huayra that Lin Fan had just obtained. Lin Fan walked to the front of the car, opened the door, and sat inside. Like the Lamborghini, the center console, steering wheel, and others were indeed very sporty. At the same time, the seats were wrapped in top-tier leather, giving people a sense of comfort that was both sporty and indulgent. Boom! After starting the car, the Pagani Huayra suddenly let out an angry roar. It was extremely shocking. Lin Fan nodded in satisfaction and left the parking lot. Not long after Lin Fan left, some students walked over. Look, there's a sports car over there. A short student said in surprise. Let me see. F***CK. Isn't this car's appearance too cool? I'll search the internet to see what kind of car it is, a tall student said as he took out his phone. The next moment, the taller student shouted, F***CK. It's a Pagani Huayra that's worth 90 million. His voice was so loud that not only did the short student beside him hear him, but the students who were passing by from afar also heard it. Following that, many students took out their phones and continuously took photos, either sending them to the class group chat or Tieba. At that moment, Lin Fan had already arrived at the classroom. Under the old professor's long-winded explanation, Lin Fan fell asleep very quickly as if he was listening to a lullaby. When Lin Fan woke up, school had already ended. He followed his 3 roommates back to the dormitory. Even when Mahjong got back to the dormitory, he still did not relax. He quietly picked up his book and seriously studied. Zheng Jinbao turned on his computer and watched the live broadcast. He laughed foolishly. Song Yi sat on the chair, leisurely scrolling through his phone. The next moment, Song Yi stood up and shouted, F***CK. Zheng Jinbao and Mahjong could not help but look over with puzzled eyes. Why are you so excited? Zheng Jinbao said as he pinched his nose. Song Yi said, a Pagani Huayra. There's a Pagani Huayra parked in our school. F***CK. It can't be true, right? Zheng Jinbao was also extremely surprised. How could it be fake? Look, there are photos posted on the forum. Song Yi shouted. Zheng Jinbao quickly went up and shouted excitedly, this shape. There's no mistake. It really is the Pagani Huayra. This is a super sports car worth 90 million yuan. 90 million? Mahjong's eyes widened, and he could not help but shout out. Zheng Jinbao continued, this location is in parking lot number 2, right? Let's go. Let's go and take a look. Mahjong quickly closed his book. Obviously, he also wanted to see what a car worth 90 million yuan looked like. Song Yi saw that Lin Fan was still lying on the bed and did not move at all. He could not help but say, Brother Lin Fan, aren't you going to take a look? To Song Yi, Lin Fan had bought a Lamborghini and was definitely a car lover. He should not miss the chance to see a Pagani Huayra. Oh, that car is mine, Lin Fan replied casually. Silence. The entire dormitory was silent. There were only a few heavy breathing sounds that rippled slightly. After a long time, Song Yi stammered, Brother? Brother Lin Fan, do you mean to say that the Pagani Huayra is yours? Yup. As Lin Fan spoke, he threw his car keys on the table. Even though Song Yi and the others knew that Lin Fan was extremely rich and that he was a super tycoon, they did not expect that the Pagani Huayra was also Lin Fan's. Did he already not have a big-name Lamborghini? Why did he have a Pagani Huayra? The next moment, Song Yi, Zheng Jinbao, and Mahjong all shouted, Brother Lin Fan, I'll kneel down to you. Lin Fan looked at the comical faces of the 3 of them and could not help but burst out laughing. Brother Lin Fan, quickly take us to see the Pagani Huayra. Song Yi said anxiously. Let's go. Lin Fan nodded. The four of them walked straight to the parking lot. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class and the Lamborghini were great. However, the Pagani Huayra was a step above. Lin Fan casually pressed the switch. Suddenly, the car's gull-wing doors spread and slowly opened. Coupled with the cool streamlined body of the car, it looked like a ferocious god in the sky from a distance. The name Pagani Huayra was just right. Song Yi, Mahjong, and Zhang Jinbao all had their mouths wide open, their faces full of excitement. This design, this interior. Holy sh*t, holy sh*t. It's too awesome. Song Yi thought for a long time about how to describe it, but in the end, he could only sigh. Zhang Jinbao hurriedly sat in the car, took out his mobile phone, and said, "Friends from WeChat, hello. I heard that you guys want to see a super sports car worth 90 million yuan. Mahjong gently caressed the charcoal fiber carriage of the Pagani Huayra as if he was caressing the most beautiful thing in the world. His face was full of enjoyment. After a long time, the three of them reluctantly walked away from the Pagani Huayra. Zhang Jinbao could not help but ask, "Brother Lin Fan, don't you already have a Lamborghini and a Mercedes-Benz G-Class car? Why did you buy another one?" "I just bought it," Lin Fan replied casually. "3 cars at the same time?" Zhang Jinbao said. "Then why do you buy so many clothes?" Lin Fan laughed. "We don't wear them all at once, do we? Buying a car was like buying clothes? Was that all right?" Zhang Jinbao, Song Yi, and Mahjong once again shouted together, "Brother Lin Fan, I'll kneel down to you." In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday. It was a warm and sunny day, and it was very comfortable. Lin Fan lay on his bed and slept even more soundly than before. Little did he know that Zhangbei University had changed a lot. The school gate was filled with colorful flowers. Several large banners were hung up in the school. "Welcome to Zhangbei University." Congratulations to Zhangbei University for hosting Zhou's Conjecture Report. Early in the morning, many teachers and volunteers of Zhangbei University were waiting at the entrance to invite scholars and professors from Hua Nation and abroad into the auditorium. The atmosphere of the entire Zhangbei University was extremely lively. As more and more people entered the auditorium, the smile on Hu Chuan's face first grew, then became anxious. That was because he realized that Lin Fan had not arrived yet. The report was about to start, but the host was not here yet? Hu Chuan took out his phone and called Lin Fan. However, no one picked up the phone. This was normal. That was because Lin Fan would always put his phone on silent mode before he went to bed. After all, every night at 12 a.m., Merchant Bank would send a notification of the transfer. This would disturb his sleep. Thus, he could not be reached? What should Hu Chuan do? In the end, Hu Chuan asked someone to fetch Lin Fan from the dormitory. However, Lin Fan did not return to the dormitory at all last night. This made Hu Chuan extremely anxious. The time for the report was getting closer and closer, and more people were in the auditorium. Hu Chuan was so anxious that he kept spinning in circles. At that moment, his phone finally rang. When Hu Chuan saw the incoming call notification, he answered the call without any hesitation. "Lin Fan, where are you? The report is about to begin. Hurry up and come to the auditorium." Lin Fan then yawned and said, "Oh, is it starting? All right, I'll be there in a bit." After hanging up the phone, he put on his clothes and walked out. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed since the report began. Even though the school leaders were giving speeches on stage to stall for time. Some people were clearly getting impatient. What's going on? Why hasn't it started yet? Professor Lancelot, who was wearing a white shirt and had a full beard, frowned. "It's a little draggy. You should just start explaining Zhou's conjecture," Professor Barnardin said. Jeffrey chuckled. "We've all traveled thousands of miles to get here, so you don't have to worry too much about the time. I learned a phrase a while ago, haste makes waste." "What does it mean?" Lancelot asked. It means that the better the item, the longer the wait, Jeffrey said. Sitting next to him, the mustached Yamamoto Jiro said, I don't understand why we came all the way here. I'm from Hua Nation, so I came to listen to the report. Joe's conjecture? That's just a simple expression of prime numbers. If you really want to hear more about prime numbers, you should come to my country. Our Professor Tanaka has already solved Lyman's conjecture. As he spoke, a look of admiration and pride appeared on his face. Jeffrey and the others sitting next to him only smiled politely but did not say anything. He answered Lyman's conjecture? That was just Tanaka's wishful thinking. Back then, Tanaka claimed to have solved Lyman's conjecture and even published the specific process of solving it on the internet. Many mathematicians immediately started their research and verification. They quickly discovered the problem. However, Tanaka refused to admit it and said that the calculation of others was wrong. No. Not only was Tanaka stubborn, but the entire mathematics world in that country was also the same. Others said that there was a problem with his calculations. The world of mathematics did not admit that he solved Lyman's conjecture. However, it did not matter to them. They acknowledged it. As a result, the mathematics community in their country announced that Tanaka had solved the world's difficult problem, Lyman's conjecture. Hu Chuan also knew that many people were already dissatisfied, so he kept pacing back and forth. At this moment, Lin Fan finally walked over. Good, good. It's good that you're here, Hu Chuan said excitedly. How are your preparations? He asked. How are the preparations? Was it not just writing down more detailed steps to solve Joe's conjecture on the spot? What was there to prepare? I'm ready, Lin Fan replied casually. Alright, then you should go up quickly, Hu Chuan said. The school leader who was giving a speech on stage also noticed Lin Fan's arrival. He smiled and said, I won't talk much. After all, the topic of this report is Joe's conjecture. Next, let's welcome Lin Fan, who solved Joe's conjecture, onto the stage. Lin Fan strolled up the stage. When the mathematicians below saw this, they all frowned. He's Lin Fan? Heavens! He's so young? You're not joking? Many mathematicians only knew that the person who solved Joe's conjecture was from Hua Nation. Their first thought was that this Hua Nation man must be at least 40 or 50 years old. However, the mathematicians did not expect him to be so young.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see you in the next chapter.